Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
I'm Juliet.
We got a challenge review episode this time, so every month we have a design challenge. We give that to everybody. We get a bunch of submissions from all of you, and then we talk about them on the show. What's our challenge for this month?
So for the month of July, we have 777 Jackpot. Design a fixing card using at least one mechanic that was first printed or previewed in 2024. With bonus points. Juliet's bonus point, Jewel, Lie, give it a heist flair or flavor. And Platy's bonus point, July the 4th be with you. Put the number 4 in the cost or rules text of the card.
Yeah, so we're looking for a fixing mechanic, so it doesn't necessarily have to add mana, but it could turn one color of mana into another. It can also be ramp as well. That's totally fine. And especially with like Jewel Eye, giving it heist flair. We've got gems floating around, that kind of stuff. Yeah. All right, so our first card here is going to be from Wobbles. It's called Hellish Puzzle Raiser. 2 red for an artifact creature treasure devil at common. It has a new keyword, impending. It has impending 3 for a red mana. If you cast this spell for its impending cost, it enters with 3 time counters on it and isn't a creature until the last is removed. At the beginning of your end step, remove a time counter from it. And then its actual abilities are tap, sacrifice it, add 1 mana of any color, the treasure ability. And then when Hellish Puzzle Raiser is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to any target. It's a 5/3. So 4 mana 5/3. If you just cast this kind of this sort of thing normally, 4 mana 5/3, when it dies, deal 1 to anything. And then it has this impending ability, so you can sort of suspend it, kind of, but it's still in play the whole time it's impending. We haven't actually seen this mechanic in play yet. It's just from Duskmourn, which will be in a couple months. What's your thoughts on this card?
So it is, you can spend a red mana on turn 1 to kind of ramp into a 3 mana sort of spell on turn 2, which is an effective thing to do in a variety of environments. This gives you a ping as well. So you can put this down and it can kind of work as, I don't know, like a tiny seal of fire, basically, that at any point in time, I can remove some 1 toughness creature off the board effect. It being a treasure devil is kind of neat that outside of the impending and outside of the power and toughness, it has the treasure ability, which is tap, sacrifice this, add 1 mana of any color. And it has the devil ability. When this dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And so that combination together is neat. The concepting of the card, I think, is off of Hellraiser and like the weird little puzzle boxes that you solve the puzzle box and then the devil comes in. And so you have this kind of, it's a weird little puzzle while it's impending, I think. Once that time is passed, then the devil comes in its entirety. And I think this is an interesting way to make that flavor.
Yeah.
The Puzzle Raiser as a thing there makes me think that there should be a cycle of these, like the puzzle knots.
Oh, okay.
From is that Kaladesh or is that
one of those
that's from Kaladesh, yeah. I don't know that this flavor works as well for non-hellish ones, but honestly, as a standalone card, I think this is a neat way of making the impending work. I don't think I would want this at common. But, in the 2024 era, what a common has kind of changed some.
Yeah.
So who can say?
Yeah, it didn't feel, I guess, like just total words wise, it's maybe a little heavy for a common. If I'm sitting across from this card on the battlefield, it's hard for me to keep track of all the different pieces at the same time. And with a common, maybe we want to give people a little more of a mental break.
I think a lot about Wild Cantor from
Oh yeah.
whichever of the original
Ravnica.
Ravnica block had
Yeah.
Gruul in it, which was that like red and a green creature that you could just
Hmm.
sacrifice to add 1 mana. I'm bullish on the strength of sacrifice this, get an extra mana. I used to love playing Blood Pet back in the day, which is
Yeah.
a black version of this where you can just add 1 black mana. This
Yeah.
as a way to like fix into a 3 mana on turn 2 or 4 mana on turn 3
Yeah.
is it does cost you a card, but then on this one in particular, it doesn't really cost you a card if you can ping a token or make
Yeah.
a trade work in combat.
Yeah, that's true. It is a fun effect to play with. I guess that's maybe where why I'm trying to argue, can I justify this as a common? Because otherwise, like top to bottom, I'm really happy with this card. I think this is a nice
Oh yeah.
card.
And this is a like if this was like a Modern Horizons set, it's a
Yeah.
shoe in
Okay.
common. And
Yeah.
if there aren't a ton of like 1 toughness things
Hmm.
around, then
Hmm.
sure. Honestly, if you just need to have a bunch of like really playable impending cards, this is a great way to get a really playable impending
Yeah.
card like on the battlefield.
Yeah, I guess if maybe there are going to be multiple other devils in the set, so people are more aware of this trigger. But yeah, I guess I agree that like the onboardiness is maybe not okay. Is maybe okay if it's really clear, but when it's buried along with some other text, maybe that pulls it out of common.
On the other hand, if I have a 1 toughness creature and you play and sacrifice your puzzle raiser to kill it, I might be like, well,
Yeah,
you lost your 5/3, so
yeah. I think that's where it's like it's not power level outside of common to me because I'm sacrifice my dragon to kill a bear. Like, I
Mhm.
I didn't get an awesome deal there. It's maybe just I made a trade that it was hard for my opponent to tell that I could also, kill a second creature of theirs in that combat trade because of something on board.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, really cool one. What's next?
Our next card is from Platy People. It's Tantalizing Score. For 4 generic mana, it's an uncommon artifact with tap, add 2 mana of any one color, and plot green, green, green.
Wow. It's simple, but a solid thing to be doing.
Plot, of course, is from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It's you may pay this cost and exile it from your hand, and basically
Yeah.
you can cast it for free on future turns. You can either get this 4 mana into a 2 mana rock, or
Hmm.
on turn 3 you can just pay 3 green, and then on turn 4 this can just cast for free. You've got all your mana open, and you've got a big ramp on the turn it comes in.
Yeah, yeah. The plot blast of mana is pretty cool. My first read of this, I was like, wow, instant commander staple. 4 mana, add 2 mana of any color. That's just like a super solid card. And I'm like, wait a second. It can only go in green decks because it has that plot cost.
Mhm.
Uh, the plot cost actually kind of like cuts it off of the decks that would probably be most motivated to run this card in Commander, and puts it with the color that maybe should be most allowed to do that. I guess.
Part of the reason why I wanted to make sure we had a fixing challenge was
Yeah,
a project that Red Bay was putting together of a cube of just cards from design challenges
yeah,
on this podcast. And I was like, well, we need fixing. We've done a lot of different multicolor things.
yeah, yeah,
And whether for this cube or for any cube, I think this is a fun sort of card to put in a cube because, hey, anybody can use it to try to fix or to ramp,
yeah,
but a heavily green deck can like take most advantage of it, which I think is
yeah,
an interesting thing in a draft sort of environment.
yeah, yeah. This is an interesting one. I guess whenever you see one color of a thing, you think, is this cyclable? Well, we probably wouldn't cycle the same thing, but maybe you have like a cycle of plottable artifacts or something like that, one for each color. And this is the
Yeah.
group of those.
This is also, it's our only our second submission so far, but this is
Yeah.
our first submission that hits both of our bonus points of a heist flare and getting the number 4 in the cost
Yeah.
of the artifact.
Tantalizing score. That's an interesting name for like an object. Like
Mhm.
doesn't it feel kind of like an enchantment or a sorcery or something?
It does feel sorcery-esque, but the word
Hmm.
score can be used in enough different ways, I
Yeah.
suppose, that it
Yeah. Yeah. Alrighty. Cool card. Next up from Red Bay, we have Vault 87. Legendary artifact land. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. You get X rad counters, where X is 2 plus the number of rad counters you have. 4 tap sacrifice. Search your library for an artifact card. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Activate only if you have 3 or more rad counters, and only as a sorcery. Maybe we should recap what rad counters do, just to... Yeah, the radiation reminder card here. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, if you have any rad counters, mill that many cards. For each non-land card milled this way, you lose 1 life and a rad counter. So the way these radiation counters sort of work is, let's say I have 5 radiation counters or rad counters on me. I'm going to mill 5 cards, and then if I hit like 3 non-lands, I'll take 3 damage and lose 3 rad. So all your rads are basically future damage that will eventually get to you. But in the meantime, you don't know quite when that damage is going to land, and you're going to mill a bunch of cards along the way.
This card being a land itself and an artifact itself kind of lends itself to, okay, you put 4 of these in. Do we have a bunch of other lands that we can put in so we can hold on to the rad counters as much as possible so that when we're milling 3 or milling 5, we can still have enough rad counters to activate this next time?
Yeah, I guess if you're only doing a little bit of rad, like you might get a couple rad counter, 2 plus the number of rad counters you had. So you tap it the first time, you only get 2. You tap, and then maybe you lose 1 or 2 of those. You tap it again, you get another 3. You lose 1 of those. Like, it's hard to necessarily guarantee that you'll untap with this land and 3 rad counters unless you're doing other stuff with rad counters.
We have a blurb for the flavor here from Red Bay, which is
Oh.
Vault 87 is from Fallout 3. It has an important object in it that the player must retrieve to continue the main storyline. A nuclear bomb exploded at the main entrance, causing this area to be highly irradiated, so the player has to sneak into it from another direction.
Okay, so anytime you're around this, there's a lot of radiation there, makes it very dangerous, but then it has a really important thing inside. Yeah, I think that lines up pretty well.
Overall, I like this. I'm trying to remember. I think all of the vaults that are like vault and then a number are sagas. And
Oh,
so
is that
this
right?
being instead an artifact land in many ways makes sense because it's a like a constructed place that you go.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
because each vault is a like weird social experiment with kind of some high
yeah.
concept sci-fi stuff going on or high concept eugenics stuff going on depending on how you
Oof.
look at it,
Yeah,
it kind of makes sense for them to have done sagas to make
yeah.
the flavor of the story come through.
Yeah, maybe, you take a break from the sagas and do a cycle of vault lands, and then, you kind of mix it up. Um, I guess like search your library for an artifact card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. It's like 1 card tinker, except you need rad counters. Um,
We've seen Inventors Fair as like a way to fetch an artifact card from a
mm,
legendary land, but that just goes into your hand if you have
mm, mm,
metalcraft.
mm.
Putting it onto the battlefield is maybe that's the bonus you get for losing a bunch of life, being inconsistent, having the milling, or having to play a bunch of other rad counter cards in order to get up to
Yeah.
that threshold.
The Inventors Fair is a great comp here because It has a couple different clauses. It gains you a little bit of life if you have artifacts around, and it only taps for colorless mana, but its sack ability actually lines up pretty well. It's also 4 tap sack. It has the same sort of base cost to it. And yeah, you search for an artifact reveal, put it in your hand, activate only if you control 3 or more artifacts. I would say 3 or more artifacts is a lower bar for an artifact deck than having 3 or more rad counters. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, I probably. I mean, it's easy to get 3 artifacts on turn 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to just using only Vault 87 get 3 or more rad counters on turn
Yeah.
1. You know, you'd have to be playing other things or find some other way your opponent gives you rad counters or something.
Yeah.
I wonder, even if you ignore the free tinker ability, or even if that doesn't come up very often,
Yeah.
if this just had the first ability, comparing this to a like City of Brass
Yeah.
sort of card, you get 2 rad counters each turn, plus potentially some rad counters that you already have, depending on the threshold you already have. And you're getting like the mana, so you can potentially use the mill in your favor,
Hmm.
and the life loss is put off slightly. You know, you could win
Yeah.
the game before the life loss hits you.
Yeah. If the game goes, 7 more turns, the vault will deal way more damage to you than a City of Brass mana confluence kind of thing. If the game only goes 3 more turns, then yeah, maybe the vault actually doesn't hurt you quite as much and gives you graveyard resources.
Mhm. A very interesting card.
Yeah, and I think it has like a high appeal, high impact. It's a fun fit. Like Inventor's Fair, I think is like kind of a chase rare still. Yeah, it's like $15 still, so people are playing it, people love it. Then this has even more excitement to it.
And if this is taking over a particular format, it's an artifact land. So you can just go, "Hey, I'm gonna destroy artifacts and take it out."
Yeah.
Our next submission is from Ash. It's Nissa, Horizon Seeker. She's a 2/3 legendary creature elf scout for 1 green green. She has Disguise,
Mm.
2 green red. Spells and abilities you control that would add mana instead add that much mana in any combination of colors. When
Oh,
Nissa Horizon Seeker is turned face up, add a colorless mana for each land you control.
whoa.
Flavor text. She lost so much, knows such pain, but where she finds life, she finds hope. Chandra.
Mm. It's kind of cute. It's a green card, but the disguise is green red. So maybe that's Chandra helping Nissa disguise.
Mm-hmm. It's neat that when she's turned face up, she adds colorless, but then her other ability lets you
Yeah.
filter that colorless into any color. This makes me think of Oath of Nissa,
Mm.
which was you can cast planeswalker spells using any color of mana as any
Mm.
other color of mana. That, at one point in time that was banned in Pioneer, I believe.
Yeah. So disguise, when I pay for the disguise, I get a mana refund probably at least because I probably paid 4 mana to flip this and I probably have 4 lands because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets more explosive the further into the game you get. It's kind of nice that it's a disguise and not like an ETB because an ETB you could flicker and do this other kind of stuff to get like just crazy amounts of mana. This is a cool amount of mana, but an honest amount. This is like I'm paying some red in because I'm getting temporary mana production, and that lines up pretty well for me.
I think this is also neat that we're getting. I mean, it's not a new mechanic, but here's a creature version of a planeswalker that we previously had.
Oh
Here's like
yeah,
the
yeah,
desparked, like that's a that feels very novel in 2024, alongside Disguise, which obviously is a new mechanic from Murders at Karlov Manor.
yeah. That was a cool card. Thank you. Next up from Bass, we've got the Plan, which is a 3 mana artifact. When this artifact enters, scry equal to the number of creatures in your outlaw party. Your outlaw party consists of up to one of each of assassin, mercenary, pirate, rogue, and warlock. I'm loving this. And then the main ability of the artifact is tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this only to cast outlaw spells or to plot cards.
Mm.
Very thematic. We've got some Ocean's 11 George Clooney and Brad Pitt looking at the schematics for some building they're about to rob.
Yeah, that's the vault of the Bellagio
Oh,
right there.
look at that
I've
yard.
been having a very heisty sort of summer.
Oh,
We were reading the short stories,
oh yeah,
the
yeah.
Adventures of Gentleman Burglar Saint Lupin, and Lupin the Third, Castle of Cagliostro, and Princess Switch 3, Romancing the Star, which is also a heist movie while being
Hmm.
a Christmas movie. And a friend of the pod, who we had on for the Lord of the Rings horse
Oh
episodes,
yeah.
Wesley. I've been watching the Ocean's 11, and then we recently watched Ocean's 12.
Mm,
I'm a big fan of Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 12. I think they are
okay.
pretty darn good
Yeah.
heist movies. So, Outlaw Party, I think, is a fun idea.
Mhm.
I wonder whether other cards that go like, hey, for each creature in your party, and then if you have one of these out, can you count your outlaw party as 5 rather than 4? Or
Oh,
can
the
you
number of
count your
creatures in your party. Oh, let me
or
bring
if
one of
you
those
have one
up.
of these and another party card, rogue is in both, right?
Hmm.
So can you count your party as 8 if you have an assassin, a mercenary, a pirate, a rogue, a warlock, a cleric, a wizard, and a
Huh,
I mean, if you have all of those creatures out, like the more the merrier, you know? More power to
yeah.
you if you can pull that off.
Yeah, there's cards that are like Allied Assault. Up to 2 target creatures get plus X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures in your party. Yeah, if you have, do you need an outlaw party card to exist to plug in the concept of outlaw parties into your party card?
I
Or,
think so. I think so.
funny. I also pulled up this card, Allied Assault, and then Scryfall has a note on the side. Unclosed reminder text. Allied Assault was printed without a close bracket at the end of its reminder text. For many of us, a missing close bracket creates an unresolved tension. So as a public service, here is the end of the reminder text. Scryfall. If there's no close parentheses, I've never noticed a lack of close parentheses on that card.
Pretty incredible.
Good job, Scryfall.
So this card is a 3-mana artifact. You
Hmm.
scry some number between 0 and 5,
Yeah.
which that feels pretty flavorful for the idea of we're getting our
Mm-hmm.
rogues band together. We're getting our group of outlaws, our outlaw party
Mm-hmm.
together,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll have a better plan the more of us and the more like varied archetypes that we can fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we've got the plan, once we've scried, we can add mana, but only to cast assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks, or to plot cards.
Mm-hmm. Reading this, it seems like it might be a little tough to get this in a deck because, the scry that I'm getting is going to be, 0 to 2 in most cases and doesn't become that explosive if I do get to high numbers. And then it's a 3 mana rock, but it's pretty restricted in what I can do with that mana rock. Like, I can't cast a card that has a plot. I can't cast the plans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, all the equipment that I might want to use, I'm maybe cut off from. I think a lot of the technology on this card, I'm way high on, but the exact mixture on here, I don't know. I'm a little skeptical of.
I think I want it to be cheaper because this is not a full manolith because it has such
Yeah,
a condition on it.
yeah,
I think we could go cheaper. I
yeah.
think we could easily go like green black. I wonder if we could actually go just a single black mana.
Okay.
I mean, some people think that blue should get you get to add colorless mana because that was a thing back in extremely early Magic. we've got cards like the Enigma Jewel that we've
Ah.
seen recently, where for a single blue mana, it out of the battlefield tapped and it's legendary, but you can add 2 mana that you can spend just on abilities.
Okay.
Because of the condition on this, I feel
Yeah.
like we could potentially get that in the this is a chase mythic for a very specific archetype, like single
Yeah.
black mana pip. At 3 mana and a common, I would want to see just tons of outlaw cards, tons of these things. Maybe there's a
Hmm.
lot of gold assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks around, and ramping into them and fixing for that like second color is a
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
deal. This doesn't
Eh,
let me like plan and then pay off in a really explosive way that I would kind of be wanting from uh like a common workhorse
Yeah.
sort of card.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of like pieces here. I guess I admire trying to make a common, but I feel like the plan is
Mhm.
also just sort of like conceptually not a common thing. Like it's something that's like, something tricky where that like only these people could put together.
Right.
Though I guess like any band of criminals could have a plan, and maybe the plan is bad. So maybe it's okay for the plan to be a common.
I'm gonna cast A the plan, and then next turn I'm gonna cast another A the plan,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna tap both of them. So I've got
Yeah.
2 plans. I've got plan A and plan B. And
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's open it back up for me. Maybe it's just seeing like famous criminals on the card. Like
right.
if this were like a couple goblins like scratching out like a picture of a bank, uh,
Mhm.
that might be more common.
Yeah.
Um,
I think Outlaw Party is a great idea
yeah.
to
Yeah. Yep.
play around in.
Very huge on that.
Our next submission is from Crypt Rat. It's Kel's Mana Fixer. It's a 4/3 for 2 black and a black. It's a legendary creature, Azra Warlock at
Mm.
uncommon, with when Kel's Mana Fixer enters the battlefield, search your library for a swap card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. If it's a plains, island, mountain, or forest, Kel's Mana Fixer becomes suspected. A suspected creature has menace and can't block. So it has to be a swamp, but like Farseek style, if it's a swamp and a plains or swamp and an island, etc.,
Hmm.
etc., etc. If it's a triome with types, then this creature can
Hmm.
no longer block, but also has menace.
Dominaria United had the common typed duels.
Hmm.
Kel's was like the fight fixer. Was
Hmm.
like a jumpstart card. And then here we're scaling it down a little bit. We got the Thunder Junction thing where we need a bunch of these to be uncommon. It's kind of fun to see just like the I don't know, I feel like this is like 2010 designs where we got like cars that are not green that enter, find something of their own type, put it on the play. Like there was like I remember there's like a planes, like a core that searches up planes and stuff like that.
Hmm. Core
Um,
Cartographer in, I believe, original Zendikar. It was when we had that big upswing in all of the core and a lot of question like, oh, core
mhm.
Skyfisher, which we should
Oh
get
yeah.
Marcus on to tell us whether core Skyfisher is still a big deal in Pauper.
There we go. It's kind of interesting as a mana fixer because I have to have this like somewhat unusual thing. Maybe not in individual formats, that might be very common, but I've got this uncommon that's looking to tutor up a rare land, usually.
It's interesting. There are 5 cards printed in Magic that include the name Fixer in
Oh,
their card name, and the original Kells is one of them.
yeah.
But of the 5 cards, 2 of them are like mono black Azra cards. We also
Oh,
have Quick Fixer in
uh,
Unfinity, which is a Azra employee who I think is might just be like Kells or a like Kells
oh,
impersonator who's
yeah.
like
You're right.
fixing a ride.
Yeah, yeah. It looks very similar. Yeah, the same hair color and horns and stuff like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
funny. Yeah, I guess that the base mode is not fixing.
Right.
Maybe that's
I
where I'm
mean,
getting caught.
it's fixing in the sense of helping you have enough lands, but not necessarily fixing in the sense of fixing for colors, which
Yeah,
are
I
two
guess
things that we sometimes conflate with one another.
I already have 2 black mana if I'm casting this, so, like, I guess if I have a quad black card, it's helping fix me, but
I think I would guess, and Kirkrat can tell me if I'm wrong, that part of this card was finding the cards that have fixer in the name and then
oh,
going, "Oh, hey,
yeah.
Kells, what if we twist? What if we just do a little play on words here?"
Yeah, yeah. Then what are we allowed to do in black? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see where it comes from that.
And this hits the 4 bonus point. I'm not gonna say this hits
Oh, it's got a
the
4 in the power.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna say that this hits the heist flair or flavor, but I
Eh,
think it could easily fit in. It's a warlock, so you know, could fit
hmm.
into an outlaw
Outlaw
party
party.
potentially.
There we go, yeah.
And speaking of outlaws,
Oh, yeah. Our next one is from Sage Bees. This is Scorch Skin Rider. 2 and a red for a 3/2. Human Mercenary, an uncommon. Whenever an outlaw you control deals combat damage to an opponent, create a treasure token. And then 4 and a red, outlaws you control get +2/+0 and gain menace until end of turn. Woo! We got 2 really hot abilities on this card.
and this isn't like, hey, if one of your outlaws or any number of your outlaws, you get
Yeah,
one treasure,
yeah,
you get a treasure per outlaw that deals
yeah,
combat
yeah.
damage to an opponent.
Yeah, we want a bunch of those mercenary tokens from Thunder Junction with this.
And if your opponent wants to block, you can either pay the 4 and a red after blocks
Yeah, yeah.
and just, get a lot of upside trades, or you can pay the 4 and a red before blocks and menace to get the treasure, and then you can spend the treasure on the ability to get more pumping and more menace to get more treasure
Yeah, yeah.
and kind of spiral outwards from there. And this is a mercenary, so even if you don't have any other
Hmm.
outlaw creatures, this can fuel its own kind of engine.
Yeah, it can start generating some treasure if you need the mana, and if you don't need the mana, it can pump itself and give itself menace to make sure that, a 5/2 menace is a pretty good game asset. I, I think this is to me like a really fun card to hand to like to increase the amount of like red outlaws we've got for like a commander deck or even like a commander limited format. This is like kind of intense as a draft card to me, but maybe because it only works on outlaws, it's okay.
This makes
Maybe
me
I'm wrong.
really want a, like, 1 in a red, 1/1 double strike that's an assassin or
Double
mercenary,
striker.
pirate,
Yeah. Okay.
rogue, or
Yeah.
warlock, so that you could get, you play this and then you swing in with your double strike 1/1 and you get 2 treasure out of it. And then the next turn, you can even pump using that treasure, and now you've got the pump feeding into the double strike, and the double strike feeding into the double treasure. I don't know. There could be some fun things to do there with a
Hmm.
sort of red fencing ace. I don't think
Yeah.
we have a. I guess we're an instigator that's red and a red, but that's fine too. Viashino
Hmm.
Slaughtermaster. That's the one. I
Yeah.
was like, I
The
swear there's one
Alara
from back in the
one.
day.
Is that right?
Uh huh.
Yeah. That's
From
what I was gonna say.
from Conflux. Who was a warrior. We would need it to be
Oh
a
no.
appropriate outlaw. I mean,
Too
that's a
honorable to run with this crowd.
that's a future design space, I suppose.
Yeah, this is cool. This is exciting. This really rewards you for playing a bunch of outlaws, which is kind of what you're trying to do, I guess. um, Scorch skin looks like maybe the skin was burned off of this guy.
Mm-hmm. Flavor text: negotiations have never been a part of Hellspur's ideology.
Hmm.
I think we get plenty of heist flavor here from the
Yeah.
treasure, and
Sure.
we get a 4 in the cost of the activated ability.
Oh, I missed that. Very
Our next
nice.
submission is from James Dalton Bell. It's Irradiated Garden. It's an uncommon land with When a radiated garden enters, you get a rad counter, which again is the you mill and then you lose life. And then, yeah. Tap, add colorless. If you are radioactive, add 1 mana of any color instead. You are radioactive if you have 4 or more rad counters.
Oh, 4 or more. Oh, I did not expect that. Huh.
So this is a pretty far cry from the previous land that we looked at, where it just auto fixed you, but it also auto gave you a bunch of rad counters. Whereas this one, you just get a rad counter, a single one, when it enters.
Yeah. This is an uncommon, whereas the other one probably would be a mythic.
Mm-hmm.
You get a rad counter. If you want this card, you need rad to be like a pretty solid net positive for you. You want the mill. You want a bunch of these radioactive payoffs. I was surprised by the reminder text. I did not expect radioactive to mean 4 or more rad counters.
I wonder if that might be mostly because of the 4 bonus point.
Oh.
Otherwise, I
Good job,
think the
James.
threshold would be 3 in the style of 3 poison counters, or 1, which I think this card works better if you're radioactive if you have 1 or more rad counters, because like your rad counter's not going to stick around a long time, but it might stick around just long enough. And getting a colorless producing land that fixes the mana the first turn it comes in is not out of the question.
Yeah. I guess that's what I thought this card was trying to do, was like enter the first turn it taps for any color, but future turns it probably doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
4 more rad counters means I'm dying in a couple turns, like that, at least in a one-on-one context. Maybe that's cool though. Maybe you're trying to fly close to the sun. You have other radiation payoffs. You're a ghoul in Fallout. You know, you can really handle it.
I mean, on the whole,
Yeah.
If you only ever got up to 4 rad counters, that's only 4 life.
Yeah, but you're losing it, so like, you're going down to 3 and then you need to get some more, and then you're going down again, then you got to get some more. So you got to like generate like a fair amount. Like you're losing those red counters, and because of that, taking damage. So
Right, but you're milling each turn, but you're not losing life each turn except when the rad counter goes away. So each rad counter can only do up to 1 damage to you.
Yeah.
But if you are like consistently having 4 each turn, then you're like, then that churn is almost certainly high enough to be wiping out your life total.
If you want to have 4 on most of your turns, that's probably going to require over the game getting 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 rad counters that are, falling off a couple at a time.
Absolutely.
It's cool though. I mean, I want to see more rad counters. Like I've played against like the Mothman or whatever, which is like a radiating commander, but I haven't like played with the precons or whatever. So I haven't really felt like rad counters to me are so far just like a tracking thing where you get 1 or 2 of them and then eventually they fall off. They haven't felt like part of the game. So I'm interested where if will we ever get more radiation counters? I don't know. I guess only if we get another Fallout thing, which also seems a little tough. I don't know. Maybe it's gone forever.
There's a Mark Rosewater cited line in the wiki article that says the mechanical execution of rad counters may be reused in future sets, but possibly not under the same name.
Oh, we get like a compatible, but it would be hard. Like if they want to say, "Hey, we've got radiation in Kaladesh now," I'm like, "What? That's too grim."
And don't we already have like Aether and energy?
It all broke it. Like all The
we already have the Aetherborn for like to be the like your life is.
That's everybody now. We were all dying after 4 weeks or whatever, like the Aetherborn.
So this does fix at some level.
Yeah.
Maybe. If you it doesn't fix on its own if it's 4 or more. It does hit the 4 or more It
Yeah.
does hit the 4
Firmly.
bonus points.
Yes.
There's a way I can think of this being a heist flair flavor, but it's so distantly connected. The art for this card is a painting by Monet,
Oh,
which,
yeah.
if we go back just 3 or 4 cards to Ocean's 11, there's a
That's
whole
what they're stealing.
conversation. uh, it it's not what they're stealing, but there's a whole like conversation in the dialogue in the text of Ocean's 11 about the difference between Monet and Manet that Danny has with Tess
Oh.
in the restaurant.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the only way I'd think a garden would be part of a heist is if you're a hedgehog. You're trying to steal someone's carrots or something.
I would love to see if, like the big score, if
Sure.
Bloomborough is such a big success that like there's an epilogue to every set where it's
Hmm.
like we're reenacting the plot of the set but Bloomborough style. So like
Hmm.
we have a bunch of little cowboy hedgehogs with like the quills poking through their cowboy hats
Oh,
doing
okay.
a big
Hmm.
heist and they're just, stealing the prize carrot out of the garden or something.
This is like the thing where what Oscar-winning movie would you recast with Muppets? This is Magic's
Sure.
version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bloomborough. It's still high on it. All right.
Mhm.
Our next card is from Xena, and it's called Repeat Offender. It's 1 and a hybrid Rakdos, so 2 total mana, one of which is black or red. It's a creature orc berserker, and it's a 2/2, 2 mana 2/2 at rare. Oh, and it has spree. Choose 1 or more additional costs. If you pay an extra black, so you pay a total of 3 mana, when it enters, add red, red. And if you pay red, when it enters, add black, black. So I guess if you max that out, you could pay 4 mana and then also get your 4 mana back. If you spent at least 4 mana to cast this creature, it enters with 2 +1/+1 counters. To him, it was only obvious. When you rob, you spend. When you spend, you're broke. When you're broke, you rob.
Notably not one of the outlaw creature types, right?
Oh, Orc Berserker? Hmm.
If you spend 3 mana on this card, so if you spend 2 mana, you get a 2/2, which
Hmm.
is fine, but not
Fillery,
exciting
yeah.
for rare. If you spend 3 mana, you can get 2 mana back. If you spend
Yeah.
4 mana, you get 4 mana back, and it's a 4/4 instead of a 2/2.
Hmm.
So this can fix you for red from black or for black from red,
Hmm. Yeah.
or on turn 4, you can pay basically, if you already have black and red, you can get this 4/4 for free and cast something else. Maybe if you don't have double pips of one of the others, you could be
Yeah.
fixing, but
Okay,
mostly
yeah.
it's kind of color washing that can become a free card.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which feels pretty cool. I mean, we've had what was the Gruul one that like was 2 mana and gave you 2 mana back when it entered. And that was pretty popular
Oh,
card.
goodness gracious. Okay, I'm just gonna take the time to
Burning
do
Tree
it since we can
Emissary. There
edit.
we go.
Thank you. Burning Tree Emissary, of course. Of course.
And that's a fun card. I guess the baseline mode of Burning Tree is a little better. Just a 2 mana 2/2 that gives you 2 mana back. This is a 2
Mhm.
mana 2/2 that doesn't do anything.
And maybe like a lot of spree cards, you really aren't supposed to, or maybe you can't
Hmm.
choose no other modes because it does say choose
Oh.
one or more. So
Oh.
maybe this
Yes.
really isn't castable. It's weird because a lot of this,
Hmm.
I believe this is the first creature with spree.
Yeah.
And so it's a little less obvious
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
if you cast a 1 mana sorcery that doesn't have any text,
Yeah.
then you're like,
Yeah.
"That's not a card." But a creature, you're like, "Oh, it's a 2/2
Hmm.
for 2."
Yeah, you have to do at least 3 mana, and you could do 4 mana if you want to. Huh. Okay, so yeah, that changes part of what we were talking about earlier. But maybe that's part of what we're trying to learn with where else we can put spree. Um,
And I think hybrid into gold through like spree as mandatory kicker is a really interesting space to work with.
Hmm.
And this hits our bonus points. It's
4, yeah.
robbing, which I think we can fit into heist, and we got
Mhm.
the 4 on the 4 mana to cast.
Very cool.
Our next submission is from Mono White Border. It's Case of the Botanical Break-In. For a single green mana, it's an enchantment case. When this enters, search your library for a basic land and put it into your hand. To solve, control exactly 4 basic lands with different types.
Wha-
And once it's solved, sacrifice this case, as it has the ability.
Hmm.
Sacrifice this case. Until end of turn, whenever you tap a land for mana, add an additional mana of any color that land could produce.
This is a complicated solve. Control exactly 4 basic lands with different types.
So if you control a 5th basic land, it doesn't work.
That's what it seems like.
If I control a non-basic land, does
Those don't exist according to this case. Like, you feel free. Please have 100 lands in play, as long as you only have 4 basic lands with different types. And
but
do
like
not
is
play a
that
second forest. Don't play a second forest.
that part is like how this reads exactly? I think I would need help. Also, I think we maybe should be shuffling our library after searching for a
Hmm.
basic land.
Hmm.
I think we can shortcut the reveal part. I think that's plausible, but I do
Hmm.
think we should probably then shuffle.
Mono White Border is just on that 2029 templating where anytime you search a library, it requires a shuffle afterward.
Sure. Anytime there's a specific thing, you can
Yeah. Yeah.
assume it has to be revealed. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Demonic tutor errata to don't reveal it.
Yeah, yeah. That doesn't have a condition. So as long as it's a card, then
Mhm.
then you don't have to be checking to make sure that you're not misdoing this. It's interesting.
We got 4 on the basic land types. Maybe this is a James Dalton Bell situation where we started with let's have 4 of something and then let's build a card around that.
But then like we could do it at least instead of
Mm.
exactly. It'd be a little bit easier to play around with.
Let's be on Mono White Border's side. How do
Mhm.
we connect the flavor of exactly 4 basic lands with a botanical break-in? Why not 5?
We're working in botany. It's a
Hmm.
case
Oh.
and botany, so we're probably in Simic.
Hmm.
This is a greenhouse or botanical garden or something like that. This is a single green. You get a basic land from your
Yeah.
library into your hand. That's a rate that lots of cards can kind of have that and a little bit of upside. Maybe the solution is hard enough that then the mana flare for just one turn, if it's a greenhouse sort of thing. If we're studying botany, maybe we're
Hmm.
only studying 4 colors for a particular reason.
Oh. We have the 4 seasons, or we have to keep them separated so they don't crossbreed. Can plants cross? I don't know.
I think it'd be interesting if the to solve was like you control a basic plains, a basic swamp, a basic mountain, and a
Farseek.
basic island,
Hmm.
because then
Okay.
it's like you're casting this for green and having basics of each of these other types. I
Yeah.
think there's something really interesting to do there, but I'm then you don't have the word for showing up though.
I guess
So,
that's true. All 4 of blah 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 blah.
mhm.
Um.
If you have your basic land party, your basic
Uh,
land party consists of up to
mm.
1 basic plains, basic mountain, basic island, basic swamp.
What are the other parties that we need?
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess one of the funny things about this is that the baseline of this card is sort of like land cycling. Like, hey, cast this, and you always get a basic land of your choice. So
Mhm.
it's like half price, Traveler's Amulet or whatever, but only in green. And
Mhm.
like that case is actually like reasonable enough. that the card is like just playable, but the
Mhm.
middle clause is so confounding that it's like, never mind. I don't know. If I'm looking at this card for the first time, I feel like I'm unlikely to try to draft it, I guess. Even if it's a totally fine, reasonable card to play.
And maybe on the day that you do control exactly 4 basic lands with different types,
Hmm.
it doesn't say different land types, so maybe you can
If you have
or it does
basic lands with other types.
sure, your basic
Hmm.
lands have, uh but they have to have different types from one another or different types total. If I
Mm,
have 4 forests
yeah.
and I give each one of them changeling,
Hmm.
do they have different types?
Hmm. Yeah.
It There's some interesting things here, I think is the ultimate idea. There is a break-in, which I think is close enough to a heist, and we have the number
Yeah.
4, and
Yeah.
this fixes.
All right. Yeah. Can't argue against that.
Mhm.
Next up from Pat, we've got Mox Parkour, 4 mana for an artifact at Mythic. It has free running 0. This is an Assassin's Creed mechanic. You may cast the spell for its free running cost if you've dealt combat damage to a player this turn with an assassin or commander. It has tap, add 1 mana of any color. The best things in life are free. So 4 mana for a manolith or 0 mana for a manolith, depending on how good your assassins and or commanders are at attacking.
Mhm. This is fun. We get a novel mechanic for 2024 in free running. It's enough of a hoop that I think this is a pretty fair Mox.
Yeah, certainly fair enough. This is rewarding, like, I don't know, if you're playing Ragavan Commander or like Skrelv or like some of the other 1 mana
Mhm.
commanders, Tiny Bones, where you have like a decent chance of this arriving at just the right time that you benefit from it.
If you aren't playing in Commander, you could play this with the new Iridescent Vine Lasher, the lizard assassin from Bloomburrow. That it's a 1/2 for single black mana that landfalls. You can deal damage
Oh.
to opponents directly. It also has Offspring, but you could play Vine Lasher turn 1, and even if they, like, block or even if they've got a ping or a puzzle devil sort of thing, you can play a land, deal that damage. Oh, no, it has to be combat damage, so you
Hmm.
can't use the
They
landfall
got you.
trigger. So you gotta swing in with your 1/2 for a single black mana, and in return, you get a ramp. So maybe you should just use Ragavan.
Yeah, 1 mana assassins. There's probably not too many, but I think the Vine Lasher is still pretty good because it is likely to survive and that kind of stuff.
There are 7 one-mana
Oh,
assassins that don't have changeling.
okay. And I guess like the Black Changeling or whatever would be a good fit for this anyhow.
Mhm. I have played 2 of the 7-mana assassins.
All right, I guess 2 of them are brand new, so I haven't played any of those.
Mhm,
I think I've played all the other ones that were not released in 2024, but I haven't played any of the 2024 ones.
mhm.
Ruthie, we've got Ruthie on here, Ruthless Ripper.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a reward for some specific deck that is not one that I commonly see, but I could imagine existing.
Ghoul Draz Assassin from Rise
Oh
of the
yeah.
Eldrazi
Oh yeah.
felt so cool and so
Yeah.
powerful,
Yeah.
and these days, it probably isn't either of those things, but back in the day, it's this 1-mana creature that if I spend 5 extra mana and tap it, I can remove one other
Mm,
creature, but then
mm,
you get this battlefield control. It's a
yeah.
kitchen table staple from a certain era. This hits our 4 bonus
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
This hits
Yeah.
our fixing bonus point, and I think the flavor text gets me just a little bit over into
Yeah.
heist sort of thing. It is fun that, like, the best things in life are free and free running, like parkour free running as a little piece of wordplay there.
The assassins aren't like fully heisty. His heist almost has like a we're robbing because we want to be rich. Is that true? Like we just want money. That's why we're robbing. That's why we're doing a heist.
Well, not necessarily. I think a
No? Okay.
heist is a scheme to get something
Oh, okay.
that isn't a off the cuff just because you had the opportunity just right now. And I think heist is something that you put some level of skill or scheme into something and then get something back. For
Okay.
instance, in the Princess Switch 3, Romancing the Star, they do a heist to steal back a priceless Christmas relic on loan from the Vatican, which was stolen by a master jewel thief and hotel
Holy cow.
financier. Or else God will be mad if they don't do this heist. So they have to do an elaborate like switcheroo, like one of the Vanessa Hudgens pretends to be another Vanessa Hudgens, and like that still is a heist. Or going back to the idea of like a gentleman burglar of a phantom thief, they're already rich enough. So they aren't really doing it for the money, they're doing it for kind of the love of the game in a sense.
Cool card.
Our next submission is from Juliet.
Yay.
It's Jewel Grifter. That's so the word jewel can be pronounced many different ways in American English.
Yeah.
All the way from jewel to jewel. And so this is a bit of a pun on like mole drifter and null drifter.
Oh, Joel. Oh, okay.
Jewel Grifter. It's 2 generic mana for an artifact common. When this enters, draw a card. You can pay 1 and tap this to add 1 mana of any color a land on the battlefield could produce. But it also has Offspring for 3 generic mana. You may pay an additional 3 as you cast this spell. If you do, when this enters, create a 1/1 creature token copy of it.
Huh. Oh, it becomes so that's a creature. The Jewel Grifter is not naturally a creature. But if you offspring it, it sprouts little legs.
You get a second little guy.
All right, yeah. So I have like a prophetic prism ish as a baseline, 2 mana, ETB draw a card, and then filter some mana. But I can only filter into colors that are on the battlefield, which is a decent number of colors, maybe not all colors. And then later in the game, I have a even more enhanced sort of what prophetic prism normally does late in games, like 2 mana, I guess I'll just get a new card. Here I get to go, how about 5 mana? I get 2 cards. It's like a downside top deck mode is a little stronger.
My thought was Prophetic Prism is a really playable card in lots of limited formats and even some constructed formats. And Mole Drifter, also a really powerful card in lots of limited and even some constructed formats. What if we could do a Prophetic Prism, but not just strictly better than Prophetic Prism, but it's kind of in that Mole Drifter space where if you're spending the full cost, you draw 2 cards and you get a body off of it.
Oh, okay, yeah. It could give me the concept of what the normal art looks like and what the little guy art looks like. Help bring it home for me.
Okay, so have you seen Ocean's 11? When they put Amazing Yen in the kind of like a banking cart that the casino uses to put money and everything, and he's inside that and it gets taken down into the vault.
Yeah.
And then he busts out of that. Or in Ocean's 12 when they're stealing, spoilers for Ocean's 12 I suppose, but they're stealing a priceless Fabergé egg. And so they use this little hologram setup to replace the egg. If you imagine both of those things, here you see a jewel on a plinth or a pedestal, and then you see a similar plinth or pedestal, but you see a guy like sticking out of
Hiding in
it,
it.
like a hand
Mm.
or like a tail sticking out of it or something. And then you see that the jewel that's on top of it is like slightly fake, or like the light. You see
Oh.
the light shining through the real one and it refracts into like a little rainbow of colors. And the
Hmm.
second one, the light shines through and it doesn't refract. So you can tell
Oh,
that it's
okay.
like the fake one,
Ah.
but somebody's hidden inside it. That's my vision for the art.
Okay, okay. I like this. I like this. What was that character's name?
I want to say he's the amazing Yen. Yeah.
So they have a person named Yen in a money cart. That's like, is that like a pun? I don't know.
I never thought about
We filled
that.
the cart with yen.
Mhm.
All right, yeah, this is cool. Yeah, I have like extra top deck mode if I care about artifacts and stuff. This is great. The creature is like kind of a funny little bonus, so a lot of use for that.
If you really need like double fixing for if
Hmm.
your opponents have the blue and white colors that you need and you don't have those but you need to cast something,
Hmm.
your creature does it as a creature so it can't tap right away. You've got
Oh,
a
whoops.
just a little surprise for you that you're like, "Oh,
Hmm.
I'm gonna tap both of these somehow to double filter." Oh wait, not quite. But
Yeah.
classic Felwar Stone. I think tapping for
Yeah. Yeah.
your or your opponent's stuff is close, but not quite
Yeah.
to the full prophetic prism.
You tried to pull a little bit off of prophetic prism so that you can add a different thing onto it. That makes sense.
Exactly.
All right, our second last card here is from Cord. We got a double face card here. The front side is called Wicker Disguise. It's a 2-mana 1/1 artifact creature Scarecrow. It has 2, add 1 mana of any color. And then it has Craft with 1 or more Outlaws. Craft was from Lost Caverns, and in this case it costs 4 mana. 4, exile this artifact and exile 1 or more Outlaws you control or outlaw cards from your graveyard. Return this to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. I've got this 2-mana 1/1 that I can pay 2 mana to get 1 mana of any color. And then, once my outlaws start dying and I want to upgrade this card, I can pay 4 mana to do so. And I'll flip to the other side, which is called Shredded Strawman. It's still an artifact creature Scarecrow, but now it's a star with trample. This creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in exile used to craft it. Whenever this card attacks, you may cloak a card used to craft it. If you do, it enters tapped and attacking. Wow.
We've got crafting, which is, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
technically a 2023 mechanic, but then we've got
Oh,
outlaws and cloaking, both from 2024. And honestly, I think we would accept crafting as a new mechanic in the
yeah.
same space. And then flavor text on the front is Akroan criminals found
Oh,
new inspiration while committing crime on
oh
Innistrad.
my God.
And then backside flavor text. But the scarecrows of Gavany didn't like being disguises.
Cord is Omen Path pilled for sure. Crone criminals on Innistrad.
I also imagine that shredded in the card name for the backside, shredded strawman, like when somebody is shredded, like they're really beefy. They got full set of abs.
Yeah. Just the most yoked the straw man you've ever seen. I don't know if I've ever
Mhm.
seen a muscle straw man.
I mean, the thing about straw is
Yeah. If anyone's got a picture of a muscular scarecrow, send it to me. I'm interested. So the idea here is that I actually want to hold off. A lot of craft cards, you're kind of like, my card's not that great, but I'll be able to upgrade it pretty soon. Like
Mhm.
I'll be able to turn this thing into like a 6/6 or whatever. Just once I get something in my graveyard. Here we kind of want to wait. We probably don't want to do this right away. And we kind of want to wait because if I do this right away, I've got a 1/1 trampler that when it attacks, I cloak the one card and then the strawman just dies. And then so I'm attacking with a cloaked creature. My opponent knows exactly which cloaked creature that is. And so it's kind of unlikely that that's really going to be worth my time to do.
Mm-hmm.
What I kind of want to do is wait till I have 2, 3, 4 outlaws, scoop them all up under the straw man, and then like piece them out over time. And because they're cloaked, my opponent doesn't know which of the ones came out first, and so they don't necessarily know how to block.
It isn't hidden information at the beginning. Is it hidden information once it's crafted?
No, so like, though I guess no, you just know from deduction.
Because you can see, okay, I can see the 3 that you have
Yeah,
remaining and that
yeah,
sort of thing. But, I mean, if you're playing into the fun of it, then maybe you don't try to do that deduction.
yeah. You kind of need to
There's
like shuffle and put them face down, kind of text or whatever. Yeah.
This is interesting. Honestly, the second half seems more like a wicker disguise than the first half, if that makes sense, because it's like
Yeah.
putting out the outlaws cloaked and they are doing their own stuff, like they are under the
Yeah.
the straw man's guise on the second half there.
I guess if it's like a wicker disguise on the front, it's because the outlaws like are looking around and they say, "Hey, what's that thing walking around?" Oh, that would be a good disguise. Let's all get underneath it. Um, but yeah, it's not while it's doing its normal job of being a scarecrow and filtering mana. It's not much of a disguise. Maybe something
Mhm.
else was hiding under there. I don't know.
I think I might just swap the 2 names for this and be pretty happy with
Hmm.
both
Okay,
halves of the card.
I can see it.
We've got a fixing mechanic on the front of the pay to add 1 mana of any color. We've got the 4
Yeah.
in the crafting one of our outlaws. We've got a new mechanic in the form of cloaking and in the form of the outlaw kind of band.
Alrighty. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I sort of get to like bring back some of my outlaws over time. Yeah. I
Mhm.
guess if there's some way to just dump a ton of outlaws in your graveyard, you can end up with a huge scarecrow.
And our last submission is from Bradley Rose. It's a single blue mana for an enchantment saga named Kraken the Safe,
But
like Kraken. Its first 5 chapters all are the same, which says, if this is the first time this ability triggered this turn, surveil 1, then roll a d20 and add the number of lore counters on this saga to the result. If the result is 21 or more, put 5 lore counters on this saga. And then its 6th and final chapter says, create a 9/9 blue Kraken Mount creature token with saddle 4, and this creature can't attack unless it's saddled.
hmm. So before I really do any of the die roll stuff, or if my die roll, I'm bad at rolling dice. What this says is for 5 turns, you're going to surveil 1. And then on the
Mhm.
6th turn, you're going to make this mount that has this 9/9 mount saddle for can't attack unless it's saddled. And then we've got this D20 thing, which gives me like a slightly increasing chance to just go straight to the end. Because by adding 5 lore counters, that at least gets me to step 6 and maybe overshoots it. Um, so in the first turn, I need to roll 20, then a 19, then a 18, then a 17, 16. To get a little bit early.
And so it's like you're like spinning the combination on the safe and trying different things as you're ticking down until you finally, almost like
Yeah.
process of elimination, get to an answer and you open the safe and there's a big
Yeah.
the big Kraken monster there.
Got a huge friend. Yeah, it's a little bit like I don't know, like a thing in the ice, something that
Mhm.
starts as just like a kind of immobile thing and then eventually a huge monster pops out.
Yeah, I think this as a part of that kind of thing in the ice sort of legacy of cards makes a lot of sense to me.
Bradley noted when they submitted this, like, oh, whoops, I submitted my card. It's not a fixing card, which was the headline of the challenge. They submit another card. and then deleted it, went back to this one. So they're like, I'm fine if my card doesn't meet the challenge. I just want everyone to see this cool card I made. And, it's a cool card.
In part because I made the argument, and I think I'll make the argument here. If you surveil one every turn for like 6 turns, that to me is a type of fixing. I've seen a lot of like surveil ones over time like drastically change, whether you want mana or don't want mana at a particular time. Hey, if I need to get I'm keeping Kraken the Safe in a single land, and this can get me to pretty much exactly the number of lands that I want over time.
It feels a little bit like a piece of toast is a sandwich to me. I don't know. I feel like fixing should mean something besides just allows you to look at cards. I don't know.
Fair. I mean, is filtering fixing? I think is an open question. Is land cycling fixing? If I have, a Troll of Khazad-dûm and I spend 1 mana to swamp cycle it.
That's
Is
closer to
that
me because that
that's
more
closer?
directly gives me. I mean, I guess if you're swamp cycling, you're not necessarily getting the thing that you want.
Mhm.
Um,
Then the next question is cycling fixing?
no,
Cycling isn't fixing. It's like,
it's
"Oh, I
more firmly
drew
not fixing. Yeah.
this thing I don't need. I'm going to get a different card instead." I'm like I'm smooth. Is there a difference to you between fixing and smoothing?
Uh, Neither are defined strong enough at this point for me to say they're equivalent or not equivalent.
Fair. Very fair. I
Like,
think, hey, listener, chime in the Discord or anywhere you can, and leave a comment whether you think surveil 1 for 5 consecutive turns, whether that counts as a sort of fixing.
yeah, I think fixing needs to somehow directly let me get access to a color that I need.
Mm.
The crack in the safe. It's a cool card. It's totally fine. And as always, when people submit cards, I want to read them on the podcast. So that part is not what I'm debating. It's more just like for fun, like what actually counts as fixing.
Yep. The upside here, we do have a novel mechanic for 2024 in the form of saddle. We
Yeah,
do have a heist flavor in
yeah.
cracking the safe. And we do have a 4 in that it is a saddle 4
Yes.
for the creature to be able to attack. It can still block. So it is pretty good blocker if you
Yeah.
accidentally get this out and you're like, "No, I needed that
Oh,
surveil.
okay.
Whoops.
Yeah. Yeah.
I only have a 9/9 blocker instead. Can't cast any more creatures because I didn't get the other surveils to fix me into some lands."
Yeah. Cool one.
Speaking of 9/9 blue krakens, we've got a new design challenge for
Yeah.
the month of August.
You've got 8 legs a week. Design a card that makes a eight. I don't know if I can turn this all into a song, but an
Mhm.
8/8 octopus creature token. So we want you to whatever the card does, it's got to make an 8/8 octopus creature token. We saw a couple of these in Bloomburrow. We've seen Kiora and some other cards that make this 8/8 octopus. Um, Bonus point 1. I want to hold your hand. Use the word hand on the card. Mostly it's going to be rules text, look at target player's hand, whatever else. But if you want to put it in the card name or something, that's cool too. And then bonus point 2, an octopus's garden in the sea. The card can potentially make more than one of those tokens. So either because it has flashback or it's an enchantment or it's an emblem or whatever, it has some way of making an additional octopus.
Mhm. And a reminder for our listener at home that cephalids are now octopuses,
Yeah.
just in case that's helpful for
Yeah.
your card concepting.
You want to just be the Incredible Hulk, but of cephalids. So you're an 8/8. Yeah. Let's do August 30th. Oh, we didn't pick favorites. Let's
I
do
was about
that
to
real quick.
say, help. I need a I think one of the Beatles' best songs, probably.
Okay.
One
Yeah.
of the Beatles' weirdest movies, certainly. Have you ever seen Help, the movie?
I don't think I've seen
Where
a Beatles movie.
the plot is that Ringo gets this like ring stuck on his finger, but it's really important to these people. So this cult is trying to paint Ringo Starr red, and then like do like
Whoa.
a weird, silly human sacrifice of Ringo Starr.
All right.
That's the premise, and then just a bunch of wacky things happen in the pursuit of that objective. So our favorite cards from this challenge. I think Tantalizing Score is high up there for me. That's Platy People's 4 generic mana, and it taps to add 2 of any color.
Mm.
But if you're in green, you can plot it to get that both, a mana discount, but also to get that burst of mana where it's coming in on a turn where you haven't spent any mana.
I was a fan of that one. I actually really liked Wobbles, like in terms of a card that's like an execution, really satisfying, complete magic card. Wobbles Puzzle Raiser, which is the thing that it's like the kind of medium-sized demon, or sorry, the medium-sized devil that also has impending. If I want to cast it early, I can cash it in for mana if I want to. I can cash it in to deal damage if I want to. I can wait for it to be a big creature. When it dies, it gets to zap something. I guess the other one that I was a fan of, it's pretty intense for an uncommon, but the Scorchskin Rider, that was Sage B's
Mhm.
card that when your outlaws hit, they make treasure, and then you can give all your outlaws a bunch of menace and stuff like that. That started to feel like, hey, this is an uncommon that I could also imagine it being worth putting in a commander deck, which I like. It could flex between different formats.
For Scorchskin Rider in particular, I think as a different approach to like a Magda style red card and looking at outlaws
Hmm.
instead of looking at dwarves or crimes. I think there's some really interesting
Yeah,
deck
yeah.
building potential there.
I also enjoyed just the rad counters and thinking more about rad. Alrighty, that's about it for our pod for the week. Hop on the Discord, that's where everything happens. Design League is in the tournament phase now, so if you've been keeping up with that, you can check on the website or in the Discord to see how that's going. We're in the middle. As we're recording this, we're finishing up the judging for the round of 6, but I think those winners will be up, and then we'll hear the challenge for the top 4, which should be very exciting. So hop in there and root on our finalists, root on our challengers
Mhm.
as they try to become the Design League winner.
And if you haven't gotten enough about heists, you can check out this
Ah,
Christmas in July season of I'll Be Pod for Castmas,
hmm.
wherever podcasts are found, as we really dig into heists and what they mean for the holiday spirit. Talking about, of course, the adventures of Gentleman Burglar, Arsène Lupin, and Lupin the Third, Castle of
Mhm.
Cagliostro.
Very cool. If you need to find either of us, Discord is the place to do it. You're Juliet. I'm Tim F. Riley on there. And thanks everyone for listening.
And always remember, peace and love.
A hint of Ringo.
Uh-huh. I think that's good enough for an always remember bit.
Love it. Love it.